Dun, 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 dun. Dun, dun, dun. Hey, everybody, this is TPIM SR Live. I'm your host, TruePowerIsMine. Today's date. What is this? May 26, 2020, the year of our Lord. I know it's been a minute, since you heard from me. Hold on one second. I had to get my beverage. Brother Kenneth, Brother Cobra, peace and power. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. You know, I got some great information to share. I'm going to probably give Dr. Short a call here in a moment and have him chime in. But let's start in with the start and ends. States are covering up the death count. How many men and women have passed away due to the virus, the sickness? Even my family suffered another loss. My godfather passed. So what's the point? We have an election coming up. We have two presidential candidates that basically those of us who believe in reparation, economic viability for all citizens, they're not about. This thing, the situation, no matter how you break it down, is all man-made. Thus, it was planned. Those of you who have done your homework, you understand what I'm saying. Those who are new to the show, those who have never heard of TPIM SR Live or any of the topics we discuss, that would be mind-blowing. If you lost a loved one due to it, was a part of the plan. If you yourself are about ready to peace out because of it, it was because of a plan. It's high time, brothers and sisters, we get a plan for our economic liberation and our social development. Speaking of social development, I want to kind of segue into one of my most favoriteest comedian of all time, philosopher, Bubba Dick Gregory. Let's give him a couple of moments.
And thirdly, those of you that interrupted your evening to come and share this with us, because had you not made that decision, the rest of it wouldn't have mattered. So to you and you and you, we say thank you. The closer it gets to Inauguration Day, the more I think about King. And think about how blessed I was. The biggest story that's ever happened in the history of the planet was that movement. A white, racist, sexist, insane system. It'll be 200 years before you find out what the rest of the world knows. And the reason it's the biggest story, there's been other stories equal, but we didn't have the mass communication system. My poor mother, she's lovely, kind, peaceful. If she wasn't dead and she was here tonight and y'all tried to convince her that Jesus Christ wasn't a Christian, she'd stomp you to death. Because out of that ignorance, she didn't know that Christianity didn't happen until 100 years after he was dead. Matter of fact, nobody wrote nothing about him in the first 100 years. And my mama didn't even know his brother James was killed the same way he was. It was funny. She used to always talk about homosexuality and what God don't like. And she's sitting there reading King James version of the Bible. And She didn't even know King James was king of England and was such a weird, strange homosexual. He hated women so bad he killed his mother. And his lover was Lord Buckingham, who Buckingham Palace is named after.
Let the journey of awakening begin. You see, a lot of us are using information and tools that's incorrect. Point blank, it's incorrect. Now, with any lie, there's a lot of truth woven into it. The part that you have to figure out, and it's going to take you critically thinking, which is which. Sister Veronica, welcome to the show. Peace and power. I want for us to understand that right now, I just went out the other day. I saw gas was $1.79 where I live at. $1.79. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, that's so cool. To me, that's terrifying. You know why? The petrodollar. If gas is that cheap, that means the value of our money globally is cheap. It's inexpensive. Thus, that means your quality of life, your standard of life, your access to goods and services, and this is across the board for the most part, is reduced. Now, until we figure out another economic system, until we figure out another way to divide the bounties of this earth amongst the people, the children, then there will be no peace on this planet. And those of you who are not in the know, those of you who are not in the loop, those of you who are not initiated into the organizations of secrecy, you all will brunt or bear the weight of the plan. When it's time for blood to be shed, it will be you and your children. When it's time for people to be unfed and famine, it will be you and your children. And when it's time for someone to be enslaved, and exploited economically, yes, it will be you and your children. Because that's the plan. Keep on playing your game. Keep on ostriching in the sand. It made me this far true. I've lived this long in ignorance, and it's been blissful. Well, good for you. I guess in many ways I envy an ignorant, blissful individual. But as for me, what is learned cannot be unlearned. What is known cannot be unknown. Let's continue with Brother Dick for a second, then I'll give Dr. Short a call.
Yeah, we've left you young folks an awful mess. The sad part about it is, if you're not willing to change this, then I say have fun and have fun quick, because recess is over. And so one day, maybe 100, maybe 200 years from now, the folks that will tell the whole world the story about that movement haven't even been born. And when they get here, they won't have no hidden agendas. Huh? And then one day the world will know what we black folks went through. The physical and the mind game. That's what King had to change. Think about my mother. Raised 6 of us by herself. Worked 2 or 3 jobs. And Christmas was kind of exciting then because it wasn't no TV. You didn't see no toys till Christmas. You turn on TV now, you see all kinds of toys. So we just, and something strange about Christmas. It's a strange feeling. Me and my brothers and sisters, we'd argue all the time, but not on Christmas morning. Huh? It was a peace and a stillness, and we was unwrapping the gifts. And it's something about a wrap gift. You know what to use. If people don't wrap used stuff, they'll give you a used bike, but they won't wrap it. So we opening them up, and I'm so happy. And I open up this little shirt. Mother bought it at the 5 and dime. Brand new, was about 35 cents. And I was just so happy. I was thinking about the other day, I went to Neiman Marcus and called a sale and bought me a shirt for $1,600 down from $4,500. And I was telling my grandson the story, and I said, when I was a little boy, if you put this shirt next to the one my mother bought me, they both looked the same. Because they was new. And after my mother worked hard to give us joy on Christmas morning, I want you to hear this. Then you might understand what happened last November. See, most folks are so busy worrying about white folks' reaction, you forgot mine. After she did all that, with no Ku Klux Klan standing there with a gun, said, nigga, this is what you tell them. On her own, she told me, a white man bought that stuff for me. Huh? That's what we coming out of now. Slavery, the physical scars you can see, the mental scars. Huh? And you're not close enough to it to really know. That's why most of us can lie to you. Oh, everybody upset over the word nigga. What's that about? The N word. If I bought a product today and it said made in USA, it means United States of America. It said made in USSR, it means made in Russia. So the N word mean nigga. So what's this game about? I hope my Jewish brothers and sisters don't get stupid enough and silly enough because some Germans get upset over what Hitler and them Nazis did. If they changed the word concentration camp to the C word, all it was, white folks got uncomfortable with the word. Do your homework and find out no black person decided that that was going to be the new designated word. And it also saves a lot of people money because we have hate crime laws now. If I say nigga and then hit you, it's federal case, it's hate crime. If I say N-word and hit you, that go to the local judge.
Oh, that's brother Gregory breaking it down. So simple, so elegant. Let's see if I can get a hold of the good doctor. He might not be up.
You have reached the voicemail.
He must not be up. He'll probably call me back. Or he might be in some sort of meeting. Who knows? But the thing about it, it shows what Brother Gregory just said. Shows you what we're up against. If people have the power to change the way we speak, And these are the people who've been economically suppressing, economically disenfranchising. But when it comes to a virus, when it comes to COVID, on suddenly, the coffers are open. Banks are being shipped money. We got the money for tests. We got the money for vents. We got the money for this. We got the money for field hospitals. We got the money. We got the money. We got the money. But you, when it's time for reparation, oh, I don't know how we can do this. I don't see. I don't see a way. And that's what's so disgusting. Because those of you who are not in the know, our economic system is based upon belief. Your belief that the money, the tender in your pocket is valuable. It is printed by the Federal Reserve. It is distributed by the 10 federal banks throughout the nation to your local banks. And then some joker sits behind the desk. And when you and your old girl goes up in there, try to get a loan for a business, try to get a loan for a car, a home or something, then you got to deal with this joker who determines whether you're worthy to be indebted to the monopoly game or not. That's how it works. Made me sad yesterday. Watched a few videos and everybody was all thanking the veterans who have passed on for their service, for them giving us freedom, right? But in essence, what they gave us was a system of debt, was a system controlled by those who hate people like Brother David, Brother Marty. Welcome to the show, by the way, brothers. They hate people like me. They hate people like Dimebag Sunrise. They hate people like, well, just look in the chat, look in the mirror. If you're listening to the show, the people that I'm talking about hate your ass as well. Because they hate people who want to be free. They hate people who want to be liberated. BB, welcome to the show. Peace and power. Listen and hear me well. If the descendants of slaves are not treated fairly and equitably in the very near future, then this whole experiment that you call the United States will crumble. Which more than likely is going to happen anyways, because there will be one world government. And I don't believe the government of that one world will be called the United States. And it doesn't bring me joy or happiness to say these things. It's just unadulterated truth. Do with it as you will. Let's hear back from Brother Gregory real quick. I'll see if Judge is available.
One day. And what's taking so long because we black folk been lying to y'all and make you think we happy. You upset over the word nigger, so we got to make like we upset over it. And nobody's never really concentrated the word nigger. I've been married to a black woman for 50 years. She's never used the word. 98% of black women, they never said the word. That's the man thing would mean it must be some sex connected to it. One day, all of this is going to come out. Huh? I go all over the world. I go to China, hang out in the Christian community. Jesus Christ look Chinese. Go to Japan, hang out in the Christian, Jesus Christ look Japanese. Go to Brazil, Jesus Christ look Brazilian. Come back to America and go to black church, he a white man. And I don't care what color Jesus is, as long as he stays the same. But you got some black folks would be outraged if he was anything else but white. Huh? Black folks say we want Mother Mary to be a black woman. Black folks be complaining, but the Polish run back every year to Poland to fall on their knees and pray to a black Madonna. That's okay. I'm telling you what King had to go through because of our mindset. And I'm going to be nice to you black folks in the room, so I'm not going to use you as an example. But you know how many black folks in this town right tonight, while we getting ready to celebrate the first African-American president, how many black folks in this town tonight that if they saw a daughter come home in love with a black man as dark as me, they would have problems with it, but that's not for discussion. Huh? That I'm talking about today. That's not for discussion. But nigger is, I can never be a nigger. This is a game. When I think about how fast this thing done changed. My God. Thank God I not only lived to see it, I was part of it. We was running down there 45 years ago in Mississippi. I knew I would die with a wife and a family. I went from making $1,500 a year when the thing hit me so big. I made $3 million in the next 18 months. I had everything to live for but human dignity. And every time
I'm going to continue that, but I just want to add to what he just said. Human dignity. That's what reparations about. That's what liberation's about. Human dignity. He had the money, but he had not the dignity. Many of us have neither today. Don't have the money, don't have the dignity. So what does that put your mental state? Where's your mind at that point? That's when the news jumps in. Oh, man done this. Someone robbed that. Someone raped this. But the root of the problem is that lack of self-respect, self-love, and self-dignity, which we as a people, as a nation, as a planet, has to ascertain. Because there's many more peoples in that self-loathing boat than you think. Let's continue.
I went to Mississippi, I knew I would die. Thank God I went anyway. Because in the process of doing that, I found out there's something worse than dying. And that's being disgraced. And when you sit and let another human being reduce you below the dignity that God gave you, just so you can feed your family or send your children to college or pay for your home, God will destroy you from the inside. Thank you, Dr. King. Did I ever think back then, oh, he had a vision. We might have to die, but no meanness, no bitterness, no. And now, 45 years later, could I ever believe back then that head of the Mississippi State Troopers tonight as we sit here is a black man? Head of social services in Mississippi is a black woman. A black woman or a white woman want to get on welfare, you got to get past the system. Did I think I see this thing change so fast? White folks would ask me to comment on white folk business. come back in from Budapest a couple of weeks ago, and NBC was at the airport and said, Mr. Gregory, you think we'll ever catch Bin Laden? I said, we? I ain't looking for him. I'm still trying to find out who my daddy is. Serious. Bob Hope died 104 years old. Died at 3 o'clock in the morning. AP called me and woke me up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Mr. Gregory, Bob Hope died at 3 o'clock this morning. Just want to get a comment from you. I said, I thought he'd been dead. So what did you say? I said, oh, I'm sorry. My comment is Bob Hope should, family should get on a plane and fly to Chicago and go by Jesse Jackson's push meeting and fall on their knees and kiss Jesse's feet. Because for 40 years, Jesse been yelling, keep hope alive.
Hold on that one. Let's give Judge a call. Good morning, Judge. How you doing? This is Patrick.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I just wanted, do you have a couple of moments to talk about the petrodollar and how it's going to really impact us? What it is, the other day I saw gas was $1.79 where I live at. And I understand that our dollar is tied globally to the sale of oil internationally. And we have the situation right now in Venezuela where Iran is sending them oil directly, kind of bypassing the petrodollar process.
Well, it is what it is.
But that could almost lead to our economy crashing.
It could.
And
the whole damn thing that we are in was a scam set up by the U.S. State Department. I happen to have a college roommate who was deputy, who's now, well, they haven't shot him. He was deputy chief minister of energy in Nigeria. He's a billionaire. He broke down, but he says the meeting they got called to was called by Secretary of State Henry Kissinger, who strongly suggested that the countries with the oil form an OPEC. They didn't call it that, but at his urging and under the Shah of Iran, they formed OPEC. And then Kissinger told them to invest as per his instructions, which they did. They all got rid of it. And then he said, you need to have a strike so you can create inflation that will drive down the value of your loans. And you'll wind up getting the loans effectively with the inflation that is anticipated scot-free. Please invest in German and Japanese automotive industry so you can get a handle on making money selling gas-efficient cars and being manipulated. So it's OPEC is a creature of the U.S. State Department. And the thing about indigenous gas companies or oil companies paying a lot of money for the oil, that's not really what happens. They get it on consignment. And they get the equivalent of 10% with most countries, 15% with others, for disposing of that country's oil. So they just pull up this fiction and not then having to pay for it that way. It's all a big game.
But where'd the
Price
pause?
jumps up, but the interesting stuff is that the price jumps are arbitrary because it takes somewhere between 6 months of getting it out of the ground to getting it on a tanker across the Atlantic. So they do it instantly. So when there's a glut, they store up, then they sell the cheaply procured oil for the newest price racket.
And
So
why is
high
this,
finance, you understand it.
what you just said there? I mean, I just want to step back for just 1 second. What you said there about OPEC basically being the financial arm that backed the German and Japanese auto industry that basically destroyed the big three automakers over here. It's like
Yeah, that's the
treason.
idea. And then every now and then you have a thing like in the last Bush administration, SUVs weighing 5,280 pounds or more get a tax break. If you buy one, cause you get a tax break if you buy one. So you periodically bump it back and forth between American cars and everybody else's cars being sold. When you get a glut, that's when you sell American vehicles, and then when you create a shortage, that's when you sell everybody else's. Like more Buicks, for example, are sold in China than in the U.S. Major market for U.S. auto production is not the U.S., but China.
Yes. And then, as we all know, for those who don't know, China is about ready to seize Hong Kong permanently, for real. And
Good, they should. It's a cesspool.
oh,
One of the most corrupt places in the planet Earth is Hong Kong, China, also followed by Singapore.
yeah, and I think the judge is alluding to the sex trafficking nonsense.
No, there's more than that. There's crooked finance going on there, all sorts of shady deals. It's a cesspool.
You know, and to kind of segue into China and what's going on, what is the legal precedence, judge, for the governments, whether it be the state or county or even the federal, to determine our behavior due to this pandemic?
What? Well, the Chinese tell you to do something, you do it or you disappear.
Well, I'm talking about the United States
If you're
government.
in China.
Yeah, but over here, you know how we just came off the month of quarantine, you know, like a month and a half ago. How?
Let me say this. A lot of it's got to do with the educational situation in America. The education that the average person receives now is nowhere near as vigorous as it was 55 years ago.
Correct.
And the level of education is so low in America that it is conducive to the equivalent of what you see with this COVID witch hunt stuff. You see, the lexicon no longer says, I value his opinions, I value his conclusions, or he is a spook. They always say belief now. And beliefs don't have to be founded on reality. So you've got everybody passionately believing in beliefs that are concocted by a bunch of people who are insufficiently educated for the 21st century. In other words, the average educational level in terms of actual working knowledge, sophistication, and habit of thought is worse off now than it was 55 years ago.
Wow. And this is
So,
by plan. This
a
is by
lot
plan.
of questions, a lot of things that people pass around as firm belief now relative to SARS-CoV-2 which is COVID-19, would be answered in what we used to get in the 5th grade, but they don't have it.
Right.
The rigor of the educational process has dropped. A lot of things are no longer mandatory. And there has been this spread of an educational poison, the concept of Montessori, where the child should be allowed to choose what he wants to study. That's singularly inept, because that lets the child make choices that he's not prepared to make and will make ill-advisedly for the most part.
Correct.
So you have this, and I can even remember having discussions 10 years ago with the admissions committee at UCLA when I was working with them, and I just had to bail on it because it got so stuck on stupid. They were talking about they didn't want children to have to deal with breadth requirements because they had their hearts stuck on a degree, so they didn't think it was fair to the child to make them deal with things outside their majors, which might cause their GPAs to drop, et cetera, et cetera. And they had their hearts set on so blah, blah, blah.
So then,
have you seen an SAT lately?
not lately. I was in a
Well, for example, about 8 years ago, 9 years ago, I wrote some very nasty letters to Princeton about it. Here's one of the questions that's on there now. If John and Susan are dating, and Susan's first cousin is Harold, and Harold is the uncle of Jason, and Jason is, in fact, the cousin of Yvette, and Yvette is first cousin for Thomas, and Thomas is a nephew of Robert, and Robert is John's father. Can John and Susan date without being guilty of incest? What the fuck is this?
Exactly.
Well, I said, why in the hell do you have? Well, we're trying to even things up and see. This is more akin to the type of question that a woman can answer on the SAT. So we want to even things up. What the hell does that have to do with reality?
Exactly.
And that's because they make the presumption that women have been watching soap operas.
And so they would be able to piece the family lineage. Wow. The question
They
is
even have that on the LSAT, law school aptitude test now. And I really went off on them. I said, what the hell has that got to do with it? So they went around and round about that. Well, I said, look, let me just say something. 50 years ago, when I was at UCLA Law School, they had a big deal about what was predictive of your performance in law school. So they posted every LSAT individually with no names on it, that they made part of their public record of every student that had ever attended UCLA Law School in the faculty. And you jerks, I had the highest LSAT score of anybody that had ever attended or taught at UCLA Law School at the time.
Wow.
All right. And I'm telling you, in that context, I would have crapped out on an LSAT with some nonsense like this on it.
Exactly.
Who thinks like that?
A sick individual.
And I have been practicing law for, well, this is like then 40 years, you know, it's like, looky here. I've never in my entire career as a judge or as a practitioner encountered any mess like that. So why is that relevant? To demonstrating an aptitude for law. But you see, that's an example of the deterioration of the educational expectations. Kids go to school from 7 a.m. in the morning when half of them are sound asleep. You go in to talk to an elementary school and the kids are all asleep at 10 o'clock. You know, the whole half classroom has got their heads down on the table because their rest broken. And then they get out at 2:30. And who the hell is at home to take care of them? They don't have housewives situation anymore. And the parents have to make some kind of cockamamie arrangement to knock out an hour right when the business of the day is getting crucial. It disrupts the work process.
Yes.
You know, and then it allows them to be unsupervised for several hours. And a lot of them are not capable of being latchkey kids because they aren't raised right with the self-dependence and the responsibility and dependability to be such. And a lot of schools, districts, elementary especially, junior high, and some high school areas are cutting out homework.
True. No longer teaching cursive.
So, yeah, so that's why you get this stupidity. I was driving through an area of Memphis that is the hood a week ago, and I saw these people who are complaining about they don't have, you know, staying home from work. I saw 7 of them on somebody's front. Check this. I saw 7 of them sitting on somebody's front porch passing around a joint. Now that's going to translate out to white supremacy causing black people to be targeted by COVID-19, or it's a myth. It's no damn myth, or it got made in a laboratory and some billionaires are trying to sell vaccinations. Like, well, so you clowns won't even go get vaccinated if they invented it. Well, they can come up with a cure. Well, they haven't even come up with a cure to a common cold yet when it comes to beta coronavirus.
Correct.
Which is caused by, you know, that causes the common cold. But see, and well, herd immunity. Well, if you read the research papers, not just listen to news, which is basically to keep you stay tuned.
Right.
So the ratings will go up for commercial profit because news is becoming entertainment rather than a source of enlightenment and information.
Correct.
You will find out that SARS-CoV-1, which caused SARS 18 years ago, guess what? There was only a limited partial immunity, and you could be reinfected with the same disease that you already suffered without being able to defend yourself. And that's limited partial immunity only lasted for 2, maximum 4 years.
That's why we always get the common cold over and over.
Yeah, and this
again.
was SARS-1. And see, there's one other thing all these idiots keep forgetting. It's a life form, but they know nothing about biology. And as a consequence of knowing nothing about biology, they don't get it that it has a life of its own. It's a living form, whether or not it came out of somebody's lab or out of some bats.
It's here now.
Yeah, and it's mutating. That's why you have to get a flu shot every year, because flu mutates so fast as a virus that you can't get a permanent immunity to it. Correct. And this stuff is, I had a minor in vertebrate paleontology. That's dinosaurs and fossils and stuff like that when I was in college. And I sort of had a special interest in the role of pathogens in causing extinctions or decimation of animal populations.
What did you find?
And what happens is that when a species reaches a certain population density relative to its environment, it becomes a new environment for viruses. See, viruses have this thing that they have to deal with. They have to invade a host. they have to take over the whole cell machinery to feed and replicate. And by the time they get really going at it, the host is producing antibodies. So the virus has to be able to escape and infect another host. Otherwise, the first host winds up killing off the viruses through its antibodies, or the host dies and rots. And the viruses rot with the host. But when you have an increase in the population of the host, so it becomes ubiquitous, the virus doesn't have very far to go to get to a new host. And it does best when it can make the host sicker. So the host either sneezes, pukes, defecates, urinates, or vomits. Oh, well, I said that. Or coughs or sneezes. So it can escape after it is replicated to a certain point and go to another host.
Yep.
And see, this one has got to a form where it can infect other people long time before the host shows any symptoms.
Yes.
And it is likely, if it is your typical virus, mutating if it wishes to be successful in its environment, which is humanity, and now domestic dogs, domestic cats, feral cats. We find out mink can be infected. We know pangolins, which are kind of an anteater with big scales that they make shoes, purses, and belts out of in the fashion industry. We find that tigers and lions can be infected. We know that swine can be infected. Chickens can be infected. And we know bats can be infected, and goodness knows what else. So now you've got a virus that is not only pandemic with one species, it now has mutated and evolved to the point where it can affect multiple species.
Yes.
So we've got a real huge mess on our hands. In other words, there's a reservoir out there. Feral dogs, feral cats, you know, and if you can infect, well, they figured out cats because they found that tigers could be infected. Tigers in the Bronx Zoo were infected.
That's
and if
right.
you can infect cats, likewise, if you can infect dogs, that means you can infect foxes and coyotes and wolves.
Yes.
So you got something that is evolved or mutated to the point where it is dangerous to a lot of higher mammal forms. They're even worried about whether it can infect primates out in the wild.
We're talking about cross species.
You got a real Frankensteinian monster. See, that's like what Mary Shelley's thing was. Her husband, Lord Byron Shelley, died suddenly. She was aggrieved, so she wrote Frankenstein, Dr. Frankenstein and his monster. Frankenstein created the monster, but the monster had a mind of its own once it got loose.
Yes, it did.
And see, whether this stuff came out of a lab or just naturally, it does its thing, and it mutates. It's a creature out there, an alien thing that you can't see. And even some fool doing a protest up in Michigan, and another one in Kentucky where they came and burnt the governor in effigy.
Right.
They said, we're not going to be afraid. What is this? Something we can't even see. Yeah. Didn't you get this thing about Louis Pasteur and the rest of them discovering germs? Well, see, we knew that in 5th grade, but these people don't, so they don't get germs anymore. You know?
Right. Well,
they don't get it.
But isn't some of that, Judge, mixed with that whole philosophy? You're infringing on our freedoms, and this is our right.
Well, no, it's more. It's worse than that. That is a myth that has been put out there. And the truth of the matter is for the total time of this country, they have done quarantines. They've done forced isolation. They've done distancing because that's the only response humanity had. I'll give you the example of leper colonies. There were leper colonies around the country, and people got put in them against their will because nobody wanted to contact them. By the way, we got a small problem. In the South, they used to love to eat armadillo because they were
carriers of leprosy.
Delicacy. Yeah, they carry leprosy now because guess what? There was a leper colony in the Texas Panhandle that had a huge armadillo population because they used to get in the garbage, and now the armadillo has been spreading leprosy around the country.
Oh my God!
They don't show any symptoms, but humans do, and they can catch it from eating the damn things or getting in close contact with them.
Yep.
So, I mean, see, these are the kinds of things you have to understand that humans spread across the planet, and you got the notion from Matrix where Mr. Smith, one of the programs in the computer scenario, set up and said, one of the things is humans are like viruses. They spread and kill off the host. Well, see, that's exactly what happens. We spread through the macro environment that we can see, and viruses spread through the micro environment.
Yes.
And every human, every animal is like an entire new universe to be exploited.
Yes.
There are trillions of viruses inside your typical human. And then there are some things that are happening with these viruses now that we call SARS-CoV-2. One of them that is really a scary characteristic of viruses is that when they infect the host, they take over the host's cell machinery to replicate. And they also pick up sometimes the DNA of the host. And they can carry that DNA to the next victim that they infect. So there is a theoretical possibility that sometimes manifests where the virus picks up the genetic characteristics of a host and carries it on. That's how we have the intermediary of swine changing the virus so that it can infect us because there are commonalities in the gene code of pigs and humans that allow that to happen.
Right.
That's why they have pig skin used for burn victims and stuff like that.
Mm.
So there are some interesting possibilities with that. And since this is a virus that is taking advantage of a huge new environment to with all of the billions of humans on the planet and all of the billions of their domestic animals on the planet. And for God's sake, 2 years ago, humanity ate up 248 billion chickens 1 year. They use chickens for soup stock, for ingredients and dog food, cow food, cat food, for birds, for parrots eat the stuff. They use it for duck food, all kinds of things. And all of those chickens can be infected with SARS-CoV-2 or whatever it is he's changing to. Next thing, they're getting some different characteristics, and they have what they call a cytokine storm or a cytokine storm. That's when you get a very healthy, athletic, fit, young individual, and their immune systems respond so vigorously to the infection that their own immune systems kill them.
Mm.
They're beginning to notice that. They also have another thing where in the youth, from 2 years old to 10, it's causing the children to hemorrhage. It's begun to be found lodged in heart tissue. So the survivor comes out with a ruined heart. It's killing in different ways because it's changing.
And we have to change with it.
And see, the other thing about bad characteristics, let's say it infects somebody with a genetic disposition to diabetes, right?
Right.
Well, the virus can carry that characteristic to another person, infect them, and now they become diabetic later in life.
Like you
So
said,
you know how they do genetic engineering?
Yeah, with CRISPR.
They alter a virus, and they
Yes.
deliberately infect the patient with the virus. The virus is not one that the body is going to destroy with its antibodies, but one that the body will tolerate. That virus invades the target patient's cell structure, alters the target patient's DNA, and then if you live anywhere else in the world where you don't have these strictures against fresh stem cells that you have here because it allegedly causes abortion, then what happens is you feed the person or you inject the person with stem cells for a while, not long, and then the altered DNA in the person's cells that has been caused by the viruses that you have engineered will then cause the person's body to modify itself. So the Chinese, for example, have a complete cure, not treatment, but cure for both type 1 and type 2 diabetes. So you see, there are all kinds of things in here that are crazy. You can almost literally have something that was akin to a zombie apocalypse effect.
Correct.
That you could come up with. And back in the 50s, they learned that you don't do biological war because finally, once the mad militarists got convinced by certain scientists that, look, this stuff, if you do it, once you create it, it's a Frankensteinian monster.
Yes.
It can mutate the way it wants. And now we have myths, see, about the billionaires trying to make money. Now, you know why I think we have that myth? It's got to do with the educational situation again. Over the last 50 years, the religious right, the neocon type on the far right, have been propagandizing vigorously that there's no such thing as evolution.
Correct.
Meanwhile, Hollywood has been making a lot of money off of the popular genre of the thing that escaped from the lab. Okay?
Okay.
So you get a typical person who cannot accept because he does not believe in evolution. So he cannot accept that something can mutate and evolve, but he can accept that something can be made out of a lab.
I got you.
He's ignorant. So you got a big population in America that won't accept evolution. Even the Surgeon General, not Surgeon General, he's a black guy in the Navy.
Right.
Appointed by Trump, but not the Surgeon General, but the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, neurosurgeon Ben Carson,
Uncle Ben,
often pontificates that the dinosaurs died out because they didn't make it on the Noah's Ark. You know, that's just an exemplar. And if you take the average black person, they got a real problem with evolution. I mean, they look at Jurassic Park, and to them, that's like, what's this movie? Aliens versus Predator.
Yeah.
Interesting horror movie, but no way, no how real. You see, they've been raised, and their parents and grandparents and great-grandparents have had horror movies that they've looked at, but the religion of the far right has dummied down the entire country over the last 50 years, so they don't teach evolution in school.
Right.
Or if they do say anything about it, it's so,
watered down,
kindergartenish that it's ridiculously deficient. So you've got a population in the 21st century that is less astute in such terms of such things than it was in the middle of the last century. So you need more educational sophistication to deal with increasingly technological circumstances. But what the truth of the matter is the population is less able to deal with them now. Like 5G,
burning down the
where
towers.
I am in Memphis area, they had put in a new nascent fiber optic system about 10, 12 years ago. Worked great. I mean, things were almost instantaneous when you were dealing with connectivity.
Correct.
And then it got overloaded. So then they were supposed to be putting up new towers. And they said, we're going to hold up until we get the 5G stuff perfected. So now I find my service suddenly jumped back up to the way it's supposed to be for 2 days, and then it just collapses because some ass went and set fire, or some asses went and set fire one evening to 6 brand new 5G towers, talking about it was killing kids. Yeah. And then they have this mantra out that they've got now. Not mantra, their platform that modern technology is the cause of all diseases. They claim that smallpox occurred when they invented the telegraph, and that the flu of 1918 came when they invented the radio, and now COVID-19 is because of 5G. Now, let alone the fact that the ignoramuses overlook that smallpox has been around for about 5,000 years.
Correct.
Way before they invented the damn telegraph. But it's just this kind of stupidity. And to show you the effectiveness of vaccination, smallpox vaccinations were absolutely mandatory. 1972 was the last year they gave them because they had driven the disease extinct. Didn't exist anymore. No more hoax. See, the thing about vaccinations that so many people are against because they have no scientific education or at all, and too much of this belief bit. The thing about it is that vaccinations are trying to destroy all possibility for a virus to find a host.
Correct.
But if too many people refuse to get vaccinated, they're always hosts, so you can't eradicate the disease.
Correct.
And some people never gain full immunity, so as long as there are 2 or 3 people left around in the school system who aren't vaccinated, those people who don't get full immunity are in jeopardy of being infected and maintaining the disease. There's an interesting, great presentation of it on a recent couple of years ago of South Park, where that fat little Nazi Cartman, Eric Cartman, refuses to get vaccinated, and every time his little incompetent mama takes him to the pediatrician, he screeches and screams and squeals and dashes all over the place, wrecking the office. And they go into it very eloquently about how his refusal jeopardizes everybody else in the community. It's selfish. And there's another factor here about vaccinations. I came along on the wave of the vaccinations for stuff other than for smallpox. Okay?
Yeah, polio and things of that nature.
Yeah. But they didn't have a vaccination for measles or chicken pox or whooping cough or mumps, and I caught all of miserable diseases. There's no way in the world the same person, if they knew what the disease was about, would subject themselves to suffering through it.
Correct.
If they could avoid. But in any event, I remember these kids in elementary school, even junior high school, who were screaming and screeching all down on the floor while 3 or 4 teachers held them down so that the school nurse could give them a shot. They're just scared of needles.
Yeah.
I had an ex-wife like that. When she gave birth to the oldest kid, I was there full of miles. She didn't utter a peep on the birth process, but it took me and 4 nurses to hold her thrashing crazy behind down so they could get a blood sample every time they needed one. So, you know, that's just mind outlook. And I think most of these people who are so adamantly against vaccinations just was scared as shit when they were kids to get a shot.
Correct. It's a phobia. But this phobia is translated into
like and it carries over.
Yes.
So it's crazy what's going on. But this myth, you know, it didn't affect black people because they got melanin. Oh God, how stupid. Yeah, it does. Now it's a white conspiracy, white supremacy to get rid of black folk, which is causing them to be more infected than others. Not what I'm looking at about 7 fools passing a joint around.
Or the bottle or plate of food.
Yeah, or they got all these kids out from school dashing in and out of each other's houses or apartments.
Yeah. That's just, there was a picture, the news broadcast yesterday, Memorial Day celebration in the Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri. Crowded pool. We all know this stuff can attach itself to any type of molecules, including water, dust in the air, any of that. Social distancing has been seen as a joke, but truly,
you sent me that.
Huh?
You sent me that, I think. Somebody did.
Yeah, that picture of them in the pool. And it's like, even at the ocean and the beaches, be wary because that sea mist, the sea spray, is a perfect aerosol. It's like you're being sprayed with an aerosol. Someone coughs, it attaches to those water molecules, and you breathe the stuff in. But you know,
don't ask anybody what an aerosol is. Don't say aerosol.
Well, it's a little poofy, powdery, you know, concoction in the air, magical fairy dust. You know, if you understand that. And this magical fairy dust could be tainted by real COVID-19.
If you follow the little gnome, you'll find a Kango hat full of Kango cap full of gold. Yeah.
I actually saw a rainbow hit my backyard yesterday after a rainstorm. And I thought, I wish there was a pot of gold. But the pot of gold is knowledge. The pot of gold is true data, true information to act appropriately beyond because, you know, what the government did last month should demonstrate beyond a shadow of doubt that we have freedom only in our minds. Because at a decree or order, your butt will be up in the house and only the essentials will be able to come out. And we all know who they are. So
if you want to be free, first free your mind. And our minds are not free as a public or nor as a race because we think we're thinking like it's the 15th or 16th century and we're ready to go on a witch hunt.
Correct.
Salem, Massachusetts, all over again.
Correct. The scarlet letter A going to be stamped, or the scarlet letter C. You know, or it could be A for antibodies. But you know, the thing about it is, do you think that this whole COVID thing is going to open up a whole new level of intrusiveness as far as what the government is basically okay to do? You know, take blood samples.
Well, the government used to be okay with doing some things it needed to do as a government, that it stopped because there's been a 50-some-year-long simultaneous propaganda thing to get rid of Roosevelt's New Deal. All right? And it has sanctified this big lie of the holiness of free enterprise. Free enterprise, human greed has a role where it can be harnessed, but when it no longer carries out that function, the reason for its tolerance, the reason for the tolerance for the thing ceases, so should allowance of the thing. And governments have their purposes, so do some government involvements and things that they can do best, particularly when they don't have to make a profit at it. Now, what does that mean? Our system is suffering, and I've said this over and over again, because we alone in the whole industrialized modern world do not have a plan by our government in place to unobsolete blue-collar workers in the face of industrial technology and computerization.
Correct.
That's why we have the penitentiary system, is to store surplus labor that we don't have a place to employ. So it is a process, and COVID-19 is showing the flaws. This isn't gone away.
No.
Right now, the death toll has climbed above 100,000 dead in America. That's February to March is 1 month, March to April is 2, April to May is 3 months. And in 3 months, that's about twice the death toll of 7 years in Vietnam.
Correct.
Get it? This is a death toll that has been more than most of the wars the U.S. has been involved in.
But Jeff, shouldn't we be willing to die? Shouldn't we be willing to die for the economy?
Well, here's the thing. There's not much economy when you've got a plague. And you have to think about what happened with the bubonic or black plague when it swept through Europe, Africa, and Asia from time to time. See, there is no cure for beta coronavirus related infections. They have never come up with one. Like there's no cure for the common cold.
Correct.
Some are subject to weak vaccines, and we haven't developed one of those yet. We've got all kinds of remedies, but you see that thing I posted on Twitter about 56 people in this Christian congregation down in Africa died because they drank the Kool-Aid, so to speak. The pastor wanted them to demonstrate faith and to keep them immune from COVID-19. This is God's way, and he had them drink some industrial disinfectant and poison.
No, don't drink the Kool-Aid, folks. Don't ever drink the Kool-Aid. No.
And this didn't even have flavor.
This is what you were talking about earlier. Belief is dangerous if you're believing in the wrong thing with the wrong information. And
exactly.
Wow.
I'm fond of saying, don't believe in anything, but have opinions. Belief is not necessarily founded on reality. Look at the fervent adherence to the concept of flat earth.
Correct.
And the Tooth Fairy and Santa Claus, etc. On the other hand, opinions, when they're based on the best available knowledge, information, belief, analysis, or experimentation, those things are subject to modification and change, which is a good thing. Another point, speaking of which, is that if you want to find out what's going on, quit being lazy. Google the subject, but don't look for news articles. Look for the research papers that in the scientific world have to be published so that they can be subject to peer review, where other scientists dissect the information attempt to duplicate the experiment and make commentary on it.
Mm.
That's called peer review. That's out there too. It's public because it's got to be published for it to become valid in the scientific world.
Correct.
So
but
you can get the latest update on what's happening with COVID-19 or SARS-CoV-2. SARS-CoV-1 was the SARS epidemic. SARS-CoV-1A was the MERS epidemic, not Mercer, which is a drug-resistant skin infection that can get internal and kill you. I know personally somebody that died of that.
Mm.
And hell, I got that 3 different times myself. The last time I was skin diving, snorkeling on a reef in Hawaii, in Kauai. And I got scraped up by the coral, and somebody suggested that I should see my doctor as soon as I got back home, because a lot of people got infected by Mercer because the coral had gotten infected, turned out. But anyway, MERS, Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome versus SARS, severe acute respiratory syndrome. They're all part of the same mutating series of viruses.
Correct.
And this herd immunity thing for SARS, none was granted. And then if you want to talk about herd immunity, this is something I was fascinated by when I studied extinction as a result of pathogens. You have with the Cape buffalo in southern Africa an exemplar. There was a cattle disease known as rinderpest. Well, it's still there, but they've suppressed it. And it spread in a mutated form that I now know to Cape buffalo from domestic cattle. So they had millions of Cape buffalo in southern Africa at the turn of the 19th and 20th century. Well, you'd have herds of 5,000 or 6,000 buffalo, and when they got through getting wiped out by the rinderpest virus, you'd have maybe 10, 12, 15 animals left out of the herd.
Wow.
Well, now the buffalo populations have rebounded, but you got a more serious problem because only a few buffalo made it through the bottleneck. And that means that there's no genetic diversity in today's buffalo herds, or low diversity.
Right.
And it can lead to extinction. So I don't think we want decimation. The other thing is, man, but 1 in 10, you get it, man, die. Yeah, but okay, let's line it up. It passes and infects like the common cold, and everybody on this planet has had a common cold. But let's see what that means. Let's line up an auditorium full of kids. I used to do this when I talk about how many of these youth would go to jail. And let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10, you're gonna die. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You'll die. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You'll die. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You'll die. You see what that means? 1 out of every 10.
Wow.
Now, do you want to be number 10?
Nope.
That gets awful close. See, there's no concept of 10%.
Right.
They don't visualize it in his mind. See, that's why at McDonald's they got to have cash registers where the clerk or the cashier presses the pictures.
But Judge, speaking of McDonald's real quick, did you ever think there would be a day where a McDonald's worker is considered an actual hero?
Yeah, I did a thing 30 years ago where I sat down and wrote some stuff up, and I said, this is bound to happen. We're going to have a worldwide pandemic. But let me tell you about this. They started putting people back to work. So I wanted to just say, I don't feel like cooking today or fixing up some lunch meat, whatever. So I stopped at a Wendy's. I'll tell you what it is, a Wendy's. And I went through the drive-through part. I gave my order. Person couldn't hardly speak English, even though they were American black. Oh, what do you want? What are you saying? Oh, what do you want? I said, You asked me what I want. Yeah. Okay. So I gave the order. So I got up there. The woman that took my money had a mask on, but no gloves on, right?
Wow.
So she said, pull it. Yeah, I said, okay, to the far window. Okay. Learn to speak English. It is an international language. Everybody on the planet Earth speaks English. Okay, now I pulled to the next window. When the food comes, this big fat woman who had on no mask, no gloves, hands me my bag of food, and she hands me the drink that comes with the combo, where she's got her hand around the top, holding on to it with her bare hand. I should give me my money back.
Yeah, good move.
Oh, I want my money back. You don't have gloves on, and you may be condemned this, so you won't find out for 2 weeks. So I wrote a thing, tweeted it. I said, hey, you made it. It's Friday. Now you got 2 more weeks before you have to worry about whether you're going to die or not. That's when you'll find out if you got infected today.
That's the reality. I hope the people are hearing
you made
this.
Another day. Now you only got 2 more weeks before you find out if you caught something that's going to kill you.
You hear that?
Today.
You know, when Trump said we're going to reopen this country, people thought it's a joke, but what the judge is saying is so real. Every day.
Well, I'm going to vote for Trump. There's no way I'm going to vote for that racist Joe Biden.
But you're not black, Judge.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm the same age, not quite as old. Within 2 or 3 years of Biden, he can kiss my ass.
Yes.
So, racist dog from Delaware. Delaware is such a small state that years ago when I was there for a conference, I was running a lot, and I literally jogged across all of Delaware. It was 7 miles wide at the point. They don't even have an airport in Delaware. And this clown from a border state that was as racist as it came. I remember in the 70s, I was the public defender from Memphis, and I'm sitting in my office watching my TV. And Biden was on, lauding Faubus and Stennis and Wallace as his heroes and mentors and celebrating them. Talking about he guided himself after them. And he's been ranking black folk out for a long time. And what is it? He's already said his #1 priority if he gets in is LGBTQ.
Yep. There it is. There it is.
And he also promised, didn't he, that he was going to find a running mate who was LGBTQ. So he's talking about all these black women that he's talking about, considering that means they're lesbian, they like to munch beaver.
Yes, sir. They don't want no babies.
I guess so, because that's so prevalent. See, and the other thing is I don't think Trump is right with this COVID-19. He's not what I call scientifically deep.
Correct.
At least the way he comports himself. But I know if I were to be tempted to vote Democratic, all I'd be doing is opening up for another couple of years worth of debate on who gets to piss in the girls' bathroom besides the girls. And that's not helping me.
Well, you already.
I don't think pissing in the boys' bathroom has got anything to do with some pervert who bounces around, can't make up his mind what he is.
Correct.
Who hates what he is and hates what he wants to be. Have you seen this commercial they've got on now? It's a spinoff on Trinuvia, which is for HIV prevention, I guess. And they've got this big, fat, petunia pig-looking somebody with a bouffant wig or whatever, or hair, white, with a blue dress on, talking about for this queen and all of you kings and all of you in-betweens, you know, who want this queen. Like, get over it. Get that away. And see this stuff about putting trannies in to talk to the children these reading hours who are between 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You know what that's about?
Indoctrination.
Yeah, but you know where you got an example of it?
Where?
Look here, boy. If you don't go to church on Sunday, you're not going anywhere the rest of the week. They're trying to indoctrinate you into a religion that you would have nothing to do with had they not indoctrinated you.
What? Yes.
So they're doing the same kind of thing with these children, with these trannies, to inoculate them with self-hatred. See, the problem with them is it isn't just a matter of their bedroom activity. They hate what they are and hate what they want to be. And for black people, that totally undoes 50 years ago, I'm black and I'm proud.
Mm.
Now, it is what it is. It's crazy.
It's hard.
And Mother Nature, again, back to this, and that's another angle on knocking down the concept of mutation and evolution. I worked for a long time, so the male and female of the species find each other attractive. There's either an olfactory signal for animals that rely on smell, horses do. There is a visual signal, humans and birds rely on that. Or the lady lionesses look at the gentleman lion who's got the big mane.
Right.
Or there's a size difference. Look at silverback gorilla versus the females who as adults don't weigh 1/4 what he weighs or 1/8. And humans, we have signals. Babes got breasts and buttocks and waistlines and hips and hair worn a certain way, no beards, no mustaches and stuff like that. And humans don't walk around naked, so there is a cultural tradition that what you wear reflects what's underneath.
Yes.
To carry that on. Yes. Sexual differentiation, and also sexual attraction. And now this tranny bunch of crazies are running around trying to diffuse that so you can't go out to a club and know what the hell you're talking to.
Until it's too late. Until it's too
but you
late.
See, that is violating all kinds of instinctual things that Mother Nature worked long and hard to put in the human race, as she has put in every other species.
But we have the intelligence to do mental gymnastics to lie to ourselves to say, no, it's okay for little Billy to throw in a bow and run up there in the girls' shower room and shower with the other girls because he himself, thinks he's a chick. But what happens when Billy's uncle, Gary, the 48-year-old nothing, goes down there, puts a bow in his hair, talking about, oh, I'm a high school chick and I'm going to shower in the shower rooms. We're
How about the public bathroom?
Oh, well, yeah.
High school and junior high school children are awful to each other. Can you imagine the scene in a high school or a junior high where there's somebody claiming to be a girl, got his dick hung out, he's all soaked down in the shower looking at naked, soaked down girls? What's the sitcom joke? The guy pretends to be a girl so he can get in and ogle the girls in the shower and locker room.
Yes.
Hey, and kids talk too. Can you see the boy coming back? Oh, she got some big old tits. Oh, she got back. Oh, honey.
You know it. You know that's how it would be played out. But once again, when we go back, because we're doing collective mental gymnastics. Now, the kids are more understanding now. People, the acceptance. But, how come no one's accepting reparations, economic viability for us? COVID.
And how about this one? Talking about kids understanding, which is crap. Oh, my God, he killed himself. They were bullying him online. Oh, God, we got to stop online bullying. That's today.
Yes.
In the past, 60-some years ago when I was in school, Hey, man, I don't want to say nothing, man, about your mama, man. But when I was over there last night, man, hey, man, I didn't want to tell you, man. But I was going to lay your mama, man. But she smelled so bad, man, I had to go jump out a window, man. Hey, man, I don't want to say nothing about your mama, man. But your mama's so fat, man, there ain't room in your bathtub for her to get in with 2 splashes of water. That's why she stinks so much, man. That used to be our hobby, remember?
Yes, playing the dozen.
Recess and lunchtime, you gather around as people were running the dozens. These fools killed each other.
Yeah. Yes,
they aren't prepared to handle adversity. They're little pansies.
With purses and guns.
Well, yeah, but they're scared of them.
But doesn't some of this fall back to sexual deviance in general? You know,
it does. It's because there has been a 50-year-long campaign to destroy masculinity. All it stands for, because a bunch of perverted females who were feminists, who hated men but wanted to be men, and hated themselves for wanting to be men, they got the idea that being married was a form of slavery. So they've been trying to destroy it.
Mm-hmm.
All kinds of crazy stuff about role reverse. You got more superheroes they're pushing now are female than anything else.
Oh, I saw that
on
new
the
Star Wars
they're
movie.
feeding kids. It's awful.
It is awful. You know, I was just saying, I saw that new Star Wars film quite literally the other day. And, you know, I was so underwhelmed with it. You know, the OP Ray, the super chick that, you know, kills or whatever. And the sad thing about it, they brought back the Emperor, the symbol of, you know, I mean, to a certain degree, whether it was evil masculinity, but true masculinity. He had a plan. He made it happen. He built his little empire. So they bring him back just so that she could pummel him and, win the day.
So a woman can come out on top as the most powerful being in the universe or the galaxy.
Yeah. That's it.
And that black deserting stormtrooper.
Oh my God.
Stormtrooper deserter. Did you see the one before where he was escaping on this giant horse-like thing, and he's hanging on to this Asian girl who is riding it, and he's screaming?
He's like a peg boy. I mean, if there was any type of relationship sexual, he would be literally being sodomized by the Rose chick with a strap on. He was so effeminate in his demeanor. You know, it was sad, and we always gets that black superhero trope. You know, he has all the powers, like the Will Smith one, Hancock. He had all the power, but it's always a chick or something existential pulling his strings. Basically, his governor, his dampener on his power. You know, even Jamie Smith or in that Batman, or not Batman, but Spider-Man movie where he was an electric guy, but he's all like, do they like me? Who gives a fuck if they like you? You can zap the fuck and take what you want. You know, you can be what you want to be. Not saying that you should just go around taking what you want, but we're on a continent, folks, that was tooken. I'm sorry. That's just how the real world works. You know, so we have to, like you said, Judge, we have to free our minds. We have to liberate our minds so we can, for one, start thinking correctly. And then we have to come up with some sort of social plan to actually make reparations a reality. Oh, here comes Dr. Short. Hold on. 1 second. He called in your buddy just called, Dr. Randy Short. I called him earlier.
Yeah.
But the whole point of this show, the whole point of this discussion today is to show, and hopefully I did a good job at it, is the religious attitudes mixed with government policy create some disastrous outcomes. Hold on, this is I knew you would call. Hey, Dr. Short, how you doing? I'm talking with Judge and everybody doing a live show.
Well, okay, well, yeah, you called earlier. I was doing work. I wanted to be How is Judge doing? I talked to him the other day.
I'm sure. You're still there, Judge?
I'm here.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think the speaker's not strong enough on this little cell phone. But I'll call you right back. I can call you right back after I'm finished up with the show, Doctor.
Okay, give my regards to the judge. I got to talk to. Did you see the thing with the coons in it?
No.
I sent you some text. You didn't see them?
No, not yet. I haven't really checked my mail.
You need to. Anyway, call me back. All right.
All right.
Bye.
Sorry about that, y'all. But the point is, as we see what's going to happen, and I just want to give everybody a fair warning, you're going to start seeing an actual division between the religious folks and the non-religious folks, the more scientific-minded folks, because if you really look at it, there's a lot of atheism in modern science, and it's not really, atheism and Christianity on a political scene really doesn't mix. There's going to be a lot of volatility. And with the virus and our approach to the virus, you got to understand right now, it is the religious folks leading the approach. That's why we're getting what we're getting. I just want to see people not suffer. I just want to see people have correct information and decide for yourself which way you want to go. Because I'm telling you, Judge, and everyone else, the path that they got for us right now isn't a very healthy one for your personal happiness if you're not in the in crowd. Now, if you're in the in crowd, you're golden. These are good days. But if you're not initiated, it's going to be very bad for you. Very bad. So, Judge, you have anything else to say?
Yeah. Be strong, be brave, deal with adversity with equanimity, and understand that a little knowledge can be a dangerous thing. A lot of knowledge can be the tool of a magician or sorcerer. Acquire much knowledge. And a little bit of caution, prudence, and good common sense will never hurt you. All right?
Yes, sir.
Remember, the death toll is over 100,000. At the rate it is going and at the increase it is showing, that might be as much as 500,000 dead folk by the end of the year.
Yes.
And also for perspective, 7 years of war in Vietnam produced 52,000 deaths. This is already double that in 3 months.
3 months.
There's some little alien invaders that are out there trying to take over your bodies. Body snatch or ball a while.
And the best way to do it, the best way to see is clean. Wash your hands, your body. I say, take a whole body shower. Keep your old shoes that you walk around on the street outside your house. Don't track that stuff in on the soles of your foot. And stuff that you do have to buy from the grocery stores, just, leave it on your front porch for if you can. I know some people have apartments. Well, then you need to have some sort of area where you decontaminate it. Spray some Lysol on it or whatnot, and then handle the product. Because, it's going to get rough out here. And, all the heroes in the fast food services, I salute you. You guys are... This is a joke. I'm sorry, but this is a joke. They dishonored the meaning of heroes, reduced it to people doing what people do, and that's just work, just to live. And that's not heroic. That's wage slavery at its worst. So, I'm going to end the show on a note like that. Well, thank you, Judge. Appreciate you. Appreciate all the time and wisdom that you share with the listeners and us all.
All right, sir. Have a great day. And remember, this is Tuesday after a holiday. Now you just have 2 weeks to figure out to find out if you might live or die. You won't find out till then. Good luck.
Good luck. Peace.
I've been around for 70-some years. So, you know, hey, I've had fun. I hope you don't miss out on too much fun in life.
That's what it's about. That's what it's
You
about.
only got, you got to just hang on. You got about 2 more weeks to find out if you've been infected and if you're going to die.
2 more weeks. 2 and 2.
And you can, well, look at this way. Your mama been making you go to church. Now you got a short time before you can find out whether, in fact, there's a heaven and or a hell.
Was you stop? 2 weeks. No.
Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? You survived a holiday. Now you have 2 weeks before you will be on track to discover whether or not there's heaven or hell in existence.
Or whether or not you have a ventilator waiting on you. This is just mind-boggling. You know, let's all die for the debtor economy. You know, grandma and grandpa, you guys need to be willing to lay down your life so I can get this home mortgage. And like the judge said, when everyone starts dropping down like flies, you know, there's not going to be much of an economy to worry about. You won't have to worry about going to McDonald's because guess what? The McDonald's guy is sick too. You don't have to worry about going to your
well. We won't have to worry about earning a living if you're dead.
Nope. And guess what? And I know this sounds cold-hearted, but how many pension funds managers are just throwing massive parties? You know, as those pensioners are dying in the nursing home, you know, the people you tucked away, you don't want to deal with no more, but you still want that pension check. Yeah, they die. Guess what? The pension fund don't have to pay that off. That it dies with that person.
Well, yeah, I know they don't, but a lot of these pension funds have provisions now where the heirs get it. That was in return for reducing the amount of the pension. And the pensions aren't really much. I'm fully vested, get out elected to 2 8-year terms as a state judge. You know what my pension is per month?
What? Thousands should be.
No, $1,843.
A little low.
Ain't that pathetic?
Yeah, just a little
if
low.
I'd gotten elected first time 2 years earlier, it'd be $5,000 a month. Now it's less than that if somebody got elected in the last 10 years.
But hold on, I thought the reason why we pray our political and judges and all that is so that we can avoid corruption. You know, we give you money so that some other guy won't give you. But if we're reducing,
no, that's why judges keep on the bench until they're 80-some years old. They can't afford to retire.
Wow, that's actually horrible. Because this is the
I know it's hard.
Woman.
You would think that if anybody in the state's pantheon of retirees, judges get decent money. They don't.
But they decide people's fate. They decide fate. Who goes, who stays, who pays. Wow.
I know, but nobody pays attention to them. And we've got a cadre of people that always wanted to be a judge. I never could figure that out. It's kind of like being... you need to be called to the thing, I guess.
Oh, like a
wisdom,
preacher.
knowledge, experience, and you get fit for the job. But we got people that want to rush as soon as they get out of law school to being judges. So you're not qualified. Why not? No, it's not what you do. Have you ever paid a mortgage? No. How many car notes? Well, I'm still paying on my first car. How many children you raised? None. How many have you put through college? None. How many people have you seen die that you know? Well, my aunt died 2 years ago. Your great aunt? Yeah. Well, you don't know enough people that have died. You know, you're not fit to be on the bench. You don't know enough about life. How you going to deal with life and death situation for the people that come in front of you?
Exactly.
If you don't have a clue.
Exactly. but that goes back to to ethics and integrity. You should have enough ethics about you to realize you lack the experience to do the job. And you should have.
Not only that, it's also a sense of entitlement. I wanted to do this, so I should be allowed to do it. Well, you should qualify for it. What's that got to do with it? If I got out of law, that doesn't make you qualified because you got out of law school.
Well, one could argue it qualifies them. At least they know the tenets of the law and I guess how it should be interpreted. But
well, it's not unusual. They got a justice on the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, and this woman came from a prominent political family. She got out of law school, turned 30 3 months after she graduated. She passed the bar. Republicans, Governor Lamar Alexander appointed her a circuit court judge. 3 days after she got sworn in for the first time. So the first time she ever set foot in the courtroom was when she was sworn in as a circuit court judge. They have trials, jury trials. She didn't even know how many challenges each side gets in selecting a jury. And Ronald Reagan, less than a year later, appointed her a federal judge. So you got a federal judge on the bench who isn't even a year and a half out of law school.
Wow. And she's on for life.
Can you imagine that travesty? So all of these years, 40 years later, 40 bloody years later, she's finally getting the clue, and now she's on the Court of Appeals. So what kind of judge you get who's never practiced law? See, that's one of the things wrong with the federal system. Is you had too many judges who weren't conversant with the law, so everybody's got to file a detailed brief within 2 weeks of everything getting filed, down to trivial minutiae that you ought to know. And they've red taped the federal court so much that the only people that can practice over there are those folk who work in large law firms,
right,
where you have a lot of flunky labor, read new lawyers on staff to do the grunt work. And even good lawyers with experience before trial work tend to limit themselves to criminal matters because the civil ones are so red tape complex that, they can't keep the doors open.
It's labor intensive. A lot of research, and a lot of billing hours.
Yeah, and this particular one that's just out of law school said, "Gentlemen, I'll have to have a brief from everyone on this point." And we're looking at it, everybody knows that, but man, I haven't seen that in 15 years. I haven't seen that in 7 or 8, man. Damn. You got to go to the law library. Because you got somebody that wasn't fit to be on the bench. It was all about, there are these periods where ideology becomes more important to your being on the bench than your fitness as a judge.
Right.
An example, down in Texas, that one where the guy got shot to death in his own apartment by the female cop.
Oh, yes.
Who,
Voltage or...
Yeah, that judge that came down off the bench in her flip-flops on national TV and shorts under her black robe and hugged that witch and gave her the Bible, that she should have been jacked up.
Well, don't forget
by the court of the judiciary for non-judicial conduct. See, that kind of thing, that farce that went down with the Cosby trial, and the conduct inside that courtroom was just deplorable.
So they really railroaded Bill, huh? I mean, because they character assassinated Bill Cosby before, with the allegations of the rape and all this. And then when the trial happens, I guess that was the final act to all that.
Well, that's why this guy who gets shot jogging down in Georgia did not elicit from me all of the fleeing and all of this, because I kept saying, you know, this that you're trying to do is mob justice.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care who the mob is, black, white, brown, red, yellow, is wrong. It corrupts the process.
Yes.
And as a point of selfish interest, black folk have been victimized more than any other group by this particular mob justice concept. What the people think should have absolutely nothing to do with what goes on inside the courtroom, other than that justice is supposed to occur.
Correct.
And give it a time. What did Johnny Cochran say with the OJ trial? This was a rush to justice. Now we find that the guy who took the film, the tape, has been indicted. The father and son have been indicted. It's peer pressure. Well, public pressure to keep stuff from getting swept under the rugs, but they have to do investigations. The lawyer who turned the tape over is in jeopardy of being disbarred for violating attorney-client privilege, even if he didn't formally get retained. See, all kinds of things.
Man.
Or giving the guy bad advice after minor consultation, saying, yeah, you should release it so you can get out of it. They don't want you as a witness. No, that ain't quite what happened. Now the tape released, they have no reason to need him as a witness.
Wow.
Or they can coerce him into copping out. That's like somebody sitting on the criminal bench. State Supreme, she's a lesbian here. She's a mouse. And she was an ignorant lawyer. For example, a woman blacks out, plows into a bunch of people in a crosswalk, kills several of them.
Mm.
And that's not murder because she blacked out medically. Okay? But the dumbass is now sitting on the bench when she represented this woman in the preliminary proceedings, issued a statement to the press. It's not my client's fault. She has a history of blacking out. See, nobody knew that. But when you have a history of blacking out and you get behind the wheel, that becomes criminally negligent homicide.
Yes.
If she had kept her mouth shut, nobody would have known that. A client could have walked. She thought she was helping her out. Or I got a dumb other woman who was calls herself a defense lawyer. It was a pedophile thing, child rape. This guy tried to sodomize his 11-year-old stepson who had an affliction. And she put him on the stand to testify that he only tried to put the head in, but he couldn't get it in because the boy started screaming. And the charge to the jury says penetration is, it says complete penetration is not necessary under this statute. Any penetration, however slight, the touch of part of the glands or other part of the sex organs to another is sufficient to complete the crime. So here she was saying, got a client saying, I tried to put it in, but I couldn't get but the head in. See, that's stupid.
Yeah.
And this woman was trying to be a judge too. I don't know if she ever succeeded. No, she didn't succeed.
But just the fact that she would stand up and just say that. Now, I'm sorry, Judge, that's just not sitting with me right. Just the fact she would stand up and say some nonsense like that, like that's cool. Like he still doesn't need to be punished.
Yeah, well, she had put him on the stand and asked him the questions. All right, dumb is as dumb does. And then the other one, who is a criminal court judge, who got removed from the bench, not removed, but removed from a case for some stupid stuff. I actually happened to be present in the courtroom when it occurred. It was really awful. And it's, but that's what's on the bench, dispensing justice. So she got in because she got the support of the LGBTQ community because of her status. But see, she doesn't need to be on the bench because she doesn't have it.
Wow. You know, does straight up nepotism play a huge role in this?
Sometimes.
Or is
and
it
the other thing, too, that is bad for the justice system is too many judges come from prosecutorial backgrounds. And it's nothing wrong with anybody who hasn't been a prosecutor, but they need to do something else. Because personally, I know no more corrupt group of humans than career prosecutors. Not all of them, there are exceptions, but entirely too many of them. They've been exercising too much power for too long. And see, usually what happens is if you are the lawyer for one side or the other, you're still involved with the appellate process, so you get called a big dummy in a polite fashion if you mess up. Well, for criminal matters, local DA's office usually does not handle the appeals. It's the state attorney general's office. So the lawyer who is responsible for the farce, which is often the case, is not personally involved in it. And he or she distances themselves, so it's nothing personal. Right. And they mess up, and there's no check and balance, nothing to put them in their places so that they develop perspective. And typically the judges that they're in front of are also career prosecutors. So it's all a chummy, good old boy club. Right. And the citizens don't pay attention who they're voting for. So you've got a county here, Shelby, with only 28% of the registered voters being white, and they habitually reelect some racist white judges. They don't know any better.
But could it be because preacher man's telling them to do it, or maybe union boss is telling them to do it?
No, it's they don't know who they're voting for. They wait till they walk up to the poll and somebody hands them a sample ballot. And oftentimes they don't have pictures on there for the judges, just the names. This is who you vote for. So the person that handed them to them works for somebody they got a reputation for putting out, yeah, man, they got good ballots, man. Yeah, well, no, they don't. This guy that they got on here that you keep giving your black bloc vote to was most recently Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan. And after that, most recently chairman of the White Citizens Council.
Wow. And they're voting for him.
And after, no, he ain't. Why not? Because Congressman so-and-so said he's okay. He ain't okay. Here, let me show you an article. Damn, he was the Grand Wizard? Yeah, Grand Dragon. Damn. That can't be him. Here's a picture. Yeah, I guess him. A little younger there, but that look like him. Yeah, so that's who you're getting in there to vote for.
That type of ignorance, Judge, that type of political ignorance it's a recipe for defeat. Then we'll never progress. We're never going to get reparations. We're never going to get anything except for what we've been getting. I mean, come on, Grand Wizard. You don't do any type of research, nothing. Oh, I'm going to vote for David Duke. Such and such congressman said he's a swell guy. Please wake up. That's disheartening.
Well, anyway, let me go on. I got some things I got to do. All right, young brother, be good.
You too, brother. Thank you.
Take it easy.
Yes, judges in the house. You know, like I said, I hope today's show really gives you something to think about on a personal level. There are two schools of thoughts, the religious crowd and the non-religious crowds, the believers, non-believers. They're going to clash. And you're going to be in the middle as always, stuck in the middle with you. So on that note, this is when we conclude TPIM SR Live for today. Thank you all for watching. Please live your life with integrity, without hate, envy, or greed. And as always, brothers and sisters, please, 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 let's try to be kinder to each other. Peace and power unity and victory, dignity and respect, liberation. I'm out.